Hello everyone and welcome to an exciting journey into the world of research methods using sensors. Sensors, they are like the unsung heroes of our daily lives. These incredible devices have a hand in almost everything we do, from seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, and even tasting. Picture this, from the humble fire alarm that keeps our home safe to incredible experiments like Pager, the monkey whose brain activity is decoded by sensors in cutting-edge research labs like Neuralink, enabling them to play Pong using only their thoughts, just like Professor X. Sensors not only amaze us in monkey experiments, but also find their place in the world of UX research. The driving force behind this surge is the increasing affordability of the sensor technology. In human computer interaction and UX research, various sensor types are commonly used. Biometric sensors capture physiological data to understand emotions and cognitive load. Eye tracking sensors analyze visual attention and gaze patterns. Gestures and motion sensors focus on studying interactions in virtual environments. Lastly, wearable sensors continuously collect user data from devices like smartwatches and fitness trackers, providing valuable insights into user behavior and experiences. But sensor based UX research come with its own set of pros and cons. Let's take a closer look at it. Sensors provide an abundance of data, enabling us to gain insights into user behavior that were once unimaginable. Sensors provide objective and accurate data, eliminating the potential for recall bias or errors that can occur with self reporting. This accuracy ensures that research findings are reliable and reflective of real user experience. Sensors can be used to conduct research with individuals who may have difficulty communicating or participating in traditional research methods, such as those with certain disabilities. Now, while sensor based research undeniably offers a host of advantages for both researchers and participants, it comes with its own set of considerations. Sensor data can be intricate, and deciphering it accurately can be a puzzle. Misinterpretation can lead to misguided design decisions. Participants in sensor based research studies may experience a higher level of complexity during the involvement. Users may need to adapt to new technologies or devices, potentially affecting the naturalness of their behavior during the study. Learning how to interact with these sensors can influence the user behavior and, in turn, impact the authenticity of research data.
Let's explore some key types of sensors and their applications. Eye tracking sensors like infrared cameras monitor where users look on a screen. They are essential for understanding visual attention, gaze patterns, and how users interact with interfaces. Motion tracking sensors such as accelerometers and gyroscopes capture users' movements and positions. They are indispensable for studying gestures, body movements, and spatial interactions. Galvanic skin response sensors measure the skin's electrical conductance, which changes with emotional arousal and stress. Researchers use them to gain insights into users' emotional responses during interaction with technology. Blood volume pressure sensors, commonly used in wearable devices, monitor changes in blood flow to understand user stress levels, anxiety, or engagement during experiments. ECG electrocardiography sensors record the electrical activity of the heart. They provide data on user stress, excitement, or discomfort by analyzing heart rate variability. Respiration sensors track the rate and depth of breathing. It reveals how users' physiological responses change during different tasks or interactions. Pressure and position sensors are versatile tools. They can be embedded in touchscreens, pressure-sensitive mats, or smart clothing to monitor user interactions or posture changes. Electromyography (EMG) sensors record muscle activity. They help HCI researchers understand users' physical effect when interacting with devices or interfaces. Electroencephalography (EEG) sensors measure brain activity, offering insights into cognitive processes such as attention and workload. They are used in both traditional and virtual environments. Functional magnetic resonance imaging (fMRI) is a powerful neuroimaging technique that measures changes in blood flow in the brain. It provides detailed insights into brain activity and can be applied in research involving stationary subjects. Functional near-infrared spectroscopy (FNIRS) sensors measures changes in blood oxygenation levels in the brain. They are non-invasive and portable, making them suitable for HCI studies involving mobility and interaction in various contexts.
Next, we will briefly introduce the history of sensors. Here is the timeline. Above it, we mark groundbreaking moments that influenced sensor development, while below it are the very first records of sensor coming to life. Our ancestors knew how to measure heart rate and pulse with their fingers, but it wasn't until 1602 that the first pulse gauging was invented, allowing humans to measure pulse with tools. Fast forward to 1839, when Dubois Raymond discovered the surface electrode of our skin by immersing limbs in zinc sulfate. Soon, in 1845, Michael Faraday discovered the non-magnetic nature of dried blood. Then, brain electrode was found in 1875 when Richard Cullen explored the brain of rabbits and monkeys. Following is a series of inventions that sparked the sensor revolution. In 1887, Augustus Waller introduced the first ECG using Lippmann capillary electrometer. Just 2 years later, in 1889, Ivan invented the first GSR sensor. Jumping ahead to 1908, Edmund Hugh crafted an eye tracker using a contact lens. In 1924, Hans Berger invented the first EEG. In 1937, Guy Thomas Buswell made the breaking through by developing the first non-intrusive eye trackers. As recently as 1977, Jubis discovered that brain tissue is transparent to near-infrared light, which laid the foundation of FMRIs. In 1989, Seiji Ogawa's discovery of baud contrast became the foundation of today's fMRI. In the same year, Hamasu Company introduced the first commercial NIRS system, NIR 1000. The history of sensor is a testament to human curiosity and creativity, and it continues to shape our future.
Now that we know about the different types of sensors and their history, let's talk about the actual process involved. First up, obviously, is data collection. Sensors need to be positioned accurately and calibrated to start gathering data. For certain activities, this could be multiple types of inputs, hence the multiple streams of data. Next, we need to analyze this data. In simple words, it means that we need to prepare the data for interpretation. After this, we need to make sure all our data sources are combined well to be able to make sense of them. The last step is to go through this data and interpret. I'll now be talking about each stage. Data collection here is a little more challenging compared to data collection in other research methods. This is because some body-mounted sensors are a little complex and need training to be able to place and use correctly. They may also make participants uncomfortable. Sometimes the participants could also be anxious about the whole experiment, and this can affect readings. Synchronization is one other key aspect. Let me explain this with an example. If the user's heart rate is high, it makes no sense to just have that data. The event which caused it needs to be recorded too. Another problem is that testing in a well-lit and comfortable lab ensures the sensors work well, but this automatically fails in real-world environments. This can affect our readings. The next step is data analysis. It involves cleaning the data. Since the data is very noisy and distorted, we downsample it, which means we make the data set smaller. After that, we combine multiple streams of data. Then comes the fun part, interpretation. This may be done manually. Since we've cleaned the data, the researcher can find anomalies and interest areas. Because we have multiple streams of data, we can validate our assumptions. Tools like Chronovis, of which I've attached a screenshot, can be used to compare it side by side, making it easier. Machine learning techniques have also been used for more complex analysis.
So our case study is FMRI study conducted by Anderson et al. In 2015 that explored how polymorphic warnings can reduce the mental habituation of security warning prompts. Now first, let's rephrase the title into simple English. The problem Anderson et al. Are tackling is that people often become desensitized to security warning prompts and develop a conditioned habit of immediately closing and ignoring these warnings. For this reason, Anderson et al. Wanted to explore whether polymorphic prompts, that is, prompts of varying shapes, colors, fonts, etc., than that of the default static Windows prompt, would better retain the attention of users. According to their words, their hypothesis was that polymorphic warnings will better capture and retain the attention of users over time due to the novelty of their changing appearance, suppressing habituation. If this hypothesis is correct, then certain brain regions associated with visual and attentional processing, such as parts of the occipital lobe, will exhibit an increased bold response towards polymorphic warnings compared to static warnings. But you might be wondering, what is the bold response and how does it relate to brain activity and habituation? First, in terms of brain activity, the bold response stands for blood oxygen level dependent response, which, as the name alludes to, describes how increased activation of a brain region is associated with an increased flow of oxygenated blood towards that region. As for how the bold response is related to habituation and attention, we must understand how brains respond to visual stimuli. That is, when we are presented with novel visual stimuli, something we are unfamiliar with, such as an alien, the regions of our brain responsible for visual processing, such as the parts inside your occipital lobe, exhibits an increased bold response towards it. However, through repeated exposure, this elevated bold response decreases over time due to the alien being less and less emotionally, visually, attentionally salient. In other words, you kind of get used to it. This suppression of the bold response through repeated exposure is called repetition suppression, which is what Anderson et al. Hypothesized to be happening when people are presented with the same looking security prompts over and over again, and is what they propose polymorphic warnings could avoid. So to test whether polymorphic warnings are resistant to repetition suppression, Anderson et al. Recruited 25 university students and put them each into an fMRI scanner that is able to monitor the distribution of blood oxygen levels across regions of the brain. While inside the scanner, each participant was presented with a set of 40 warning prompts that were randomly selected. Of those 40 warning prompts, half were static warnings, while the other half were polymorphic. During these trials, overall brain activity was monitored to see which brain regions would have an increased bold response to polymorphic warnings versus static warnings, and extent to which repetition suppression was exhibited. From the fMRI data, they identified 4 relevant brain regions. The first 2 are the left and right superior parietal cortex implicated in attentional processing, which both showed increased activation over 13 trials where the participants were successfully shown polymorphic warnings, as represented by the solid line you see on the graph, compared to static warnings, which are represented by the dotted lines. And next were the bilateral medial prefrontal cortex and the left retrosplenial cortex, which are both implicated in memory retrieval and both exhibited increased activation when the participants were shown static warnings compared to polymorphic warnings. The implication here is that polymorphic warnings better capture and retain intentional salience over time due to their changing and unique designs, compared to static warnings that exhibit repetition suppression to a greater extent when displayed in succession, meaning that if you want security warnings to be paid attention to, try making them polymorphic. The main critique here is generalizability, as all participants were college-age and educated students sampled from a specific campus, so the results may not be representative cross-culturally, geographically, or across age groups. They also do not control for text happiness nor personality types, as those who score high in trait conscientiousness might pay more attention to warning prompts on average, especially in work environments where there could be more at stake from ignoring these warnings.